And it's still loading. You're good to go.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our think tank session today. We'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Morgan Capilla, and I am one of the EJ coordinators with EPA Region 9. And I'm joined by my fellow EJ coordinator, Alan Baycock. And today we'll be facilitating a think tank session on developing common understandings and opportunities for environmental justice. We really appreciate you joining, making the effort to participate today in this think tank. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide and get started.
Great, just a quick, Morgan, are you seeing the slideshow with the, are you seeing the right slideshow? Just one slide?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Looks great.
Funny on my, okay, here we go.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start by covering a little bit of background information about what led to the idea for this session. And then we'll move on to some polling questions and the major discussion question that we have today. And we're really excited to have the great feedback and thoughts and perspectives that you all will be bringing to the table. So thanks again for joining. So we understand that there's been a lot going on in the EJ space recently. The Biden-Harris administration has placed a strong emphasis on prioritizing environmental justice, recognizing that advancing EJ will require a whole of government approach. So not just one or a handful of agencies' responsibilities. I'll be touching on a few of the many EJ initiatives currently underway that are highlighted on this slide that have explicit or implicit implications for tribes. And the first is Executive Order 13985 on advancing racial equity. This order established a mandate for federal agencies to take a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all and to create opportunities for improving communities that have historically been underserved. Within EPA, we formed an agency equity team to further this work. The team includes 6 work groups in the following areas: rulemaking, permitting, licensing, grants, procurements and contracts, data and access, public participation, and science and research. These groups are tasked with identifying barriers to equity, and once they've identified those barriers, determining how we can go about overcoming them. The next one that I'll cover is Executive Order 14008 on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad, which has been the focus of a lot of attention recently. And one of the main facets of this executive order is the Justice 40 initiative, which entails ensuring that federal investments are made in a way such that 40% of those overall benefits flow directly to disadvantaged communities. And within EPA, there have been 6 pilot programs identified, which include drinking water and clean water state revolving funds, reducing lead in drinking water, brownfields, Superfund remedial program, and our Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, or DERA program. And to touch on an effort that specifically relates to EPA, this past April, in April 2021, in his first agency-wide message to his staff, EPA Administrator Michael Regan directed the agency to take immediate steps to advance environmental justice in 4 principal ways. The first one focuses on strengthening enforcement of environmental statutes and civil rights laws in overburdened communities. The second one makes an explicit reference to tribes, stating to incorporate environmental justice considerations into EPA work, including assessing impacts to pollution burden, underserved, and tribal communities in our regulatory development processes. The third one focuses on improving early and more frequent engagement with pollution-burdened communities. And this item makes another explicit reference to tribes. It states that following President Biden's memorandum on strengthening nation-to-nation relationships with tribal nations, EPA staff should engage in regular, meaningful, and robust consultation with tribal officials in the development of federal policies that have tribal implications. And the last item directs the agency to prioritize benefits to underserved communities for grants consistent with the Justice 40 initiative. And now I will pass it back over to Alan.
Thank you so much, Morgan. And so Manahu, my name is Alan Baycock, one of the environmental justice coordinators here at EPA Region 9, along with Morgan and CJ Mishima, who has helped to be able to support this conference this week. And I'm here on my own ancestral lands, Paiuhunadu. Glad to be able to be here. Glad to be able to know that our people have been in this place to be able to support all of life, and that's our desire moving forward as well. And so this session was a think tank to be able to talk about ways that we can work together between EPA and tribes, specifically because of the priorities, but also because it's part of a policy that EPA had issued. And the policy was the EPA policy on environmental justice for working with federally recognized tribes and indigenous peoples. It was issued in 2014, and its scope was broad in that it included federally recognized tribes, state recognized tribes, tribal members, indigenous community organizations, Native Hawaiians, individual Native Americans, and others living within Indian country. And really the purpose of the policy was to clarify and integrate EJ principles in a consistent manner in EPA's work with federally recognized tribes, indigenous peoples, and others that are living in Indian country. In doing so, it had four general areas of focus. EPA's integration of EJ when directly implementing federal environmental programs in Indian country and throughout the U.S. The second was EPA's work with federally recognized tribes and tribal governments on EJ. The third was EPA's work with indigenous peoples on EJ, and that includes like state recognized tribes, tribal members, and indigenous community-based organizations. And then the fourth being EPA's coordination and collaboration with federal agencies and others on EJ issues of that are impacting tribes and indigenous peoples and others living in Indian country. And in those four focus areas, there were 17 principles that ended up moving within those four focus areas. And today we wanted to look at the one labeled principle number 5. And within it, you can see the quote from it on the slide here. EPA strives to understand cultural and communication differences of federally recognized tribes and indigenous people to establish common understandings of and opportunities to address environmental justice issues. And one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this today is because in the, actually, Morgan, as I'm speaking now, I can't quite see everybody because of the way things are set up on my computer. But if you could start some of the polling questions, that should help us to be able to get things around before I end the slideshow, so I can be able to see everything. So the intention behind coming together is to be able to really establish those common understandings. At RTOC meeting that we had in the winter, we had the Matt Tejada, who is the director of the Office of Environmental Justice, be able to come and share updates on what was happening with EJ within EPA. And during the conversation, there were definitely questions about equity, questions about environmental justice, and so being able to understand together how these terms go, but also how things are able to be addressed moving forward, then becomes really important. If there's additional funding opportunities that become developed, if there's more interaction between the agency and tribes on environmental justice, it's important that we listen to tribes and what is important to tribes within this arena, and so that was why we had come together, and then this was just a question that we had posed, is how can we develop a common understanding and language definitions around EJ in tribal communities so that we can leverage these various EJ initiatives to best support the needs of tribal communities within Region 9. Actually, I might stop the share just so that I can see how the polling might be going. But we do know that in order to have a discussion, it's really good to be able to have a free discussion between folks, and the way that that these presentations are created is really for a presenter to be able to share out and present topics and information out to an audience. And that wasn't really what we were desiring to do today. So we thought, well, doing the polling, being able to put things in the chat could be able to help us start some of the conversation. But then also, and I have some instructions on the next slide, but also maybe move over to a lounge where there can be freer conversation. Now, right now, everything gets recorded, which is great for those that aren't able to attend. If we move and when we move over to the lounge, it's not recorded. So I want to be able to collect as much information now while others can be able to see and to be a part of the conversation before moving forward. So let me stop sharing now just to be able to see how things are going. And oh, great. I see the new polls up.
We have the polls going. We also have a question. Would you like me to read the question to see if we can touch on that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
We have a question from Cliff Banuelos. Can tribal consortia assist non-federally recognized tribes or urban Native Americans not officially members of federally recognized tribes on EJ issues using GAP funds?
Fantastic question, Cliff. And I am unsure right now where things are at. I know that there was, I think maybe within GAP sessions, looking at what kind of activities could be done within the conference, but I think that's an ongoing kind of conversation. And then looking specifically, I mean, the question you're posing definitely fits within the overall policy that we have, because the policy is really to be able to support tribes, but also individual tribal members and Indigenous peoples that sometimes exist, within tribes, but maybe though exist within urban centers that aren't within tribal lands. So it certainly fits within the policy. How does it fit within GAP, I guess, is the question that I'm not sure about. So maybe we'll put that one in the parking lot that we can talk about together in the other forum, where maybe we'll have some more folks that are more GAP and where GAP is heading to help support that question. Great question, though. And let's see. So looking at the poll, there's 4 polls that I see. And David, since you're with us, do you know if we have to close the polls in order to see what was put within the poll?
Should be able to refresh it. I can see the totals. I'm not sure if maybe Morgan can see the totals.
Let's see.
I mean, you could end it unless you want people to continue to participate.
Yeah, I am not seeing the results on my end. I see an option to end the poll.
Okay, maybe do that.
Well, actually, maybe before ending the poll, David, since you can see, I can't see on my end either. What were the first question? What kind of came up?
Yeah, so on number 1, you have what type of trainings would you be interested in? It looks like there's a tie for first place, or the top is community engagement approaches and integrating EJ considerations into tribal decisions. And the other 2 got 3 or 4 in their general EJ topics and EJ screen. So again, the top one is community engagement and integration.
Perfect. That's great to know. I mean, when talking about environmental justice and tribes, there's really two two kind of things we're thinking about. I mean, one is when a tribe is doing their own decision-making process regarding actions, and within that, then it's seeing, okay, what can we do to be able to ensure that the community is involved and is sharing, and we're thinking and considering what kind of things that the community is sharing back with us about the action we're looking to have. And so that's like one part of the more internal, this is what the tribe is doing to be able to address environmental justice issues within their jurisdictions. And then the second is looking at tribes knowing that, you know, there might be off reservation activities that they're interacting with a different entity, and it could be a state, it could be a county, it could be the federal government, and how to be able to be to ensure that meaningful involvement includes their concern, but also, you know, is recognized when there's the federal government involved, is that trust responsibility that the federal government has, and that government to government consultation to be occurring. So there's a couple different avenues to look at when we look at environmental justice. And so that community engagement, we were thinking looked like things that the tribe would be desiring to work on. And then also that integrating EJ considerations into tribal decisions, both fitting in that same framework. And I'll check. So there's nothing more in the chat there. So David, can you share the second question and what happened there?
Sure. The second question is, would you be interested in seeing an RTOC EJ work group be developed? And from astounding 12-1, it was yes. The dominating answer was yes.
Okay, great. Well, I guess then that can help us lead into the third question. If we were to develop an EJ work group within the RTOC, how often would folks like to meet?
Sure. And for the three options, it was monthly, quarterly, and every 6 months. Monthly got 2 responses, quarterly got 9, and every 6 months got 3. So quarterly was 9 was the top response.
Excellent. And that really does, I think, kind of fit in with if we were to do an RTOC work group, how a lot of the work groups are able to function, being able to have call-ins on a monthly basis, and then, you know, we can work on different aspects together, and that really helps to be able to support, I think, developing these common language and common understandings. I think the difficulty is when we're just having these conversations and not having them regularly to be able to truly understand and be able to support where everyone is coming from. So on a quarterly basis, being able to talk together really helps to establish things and establish relation overall with just the topic of environmental justice. So that sounds like it's something we can continue to work on as we move forward. And then the fourth question was on what EJ topics are of interest that you would want to learn more about. And
yes, for those, there was a response for each one of them, but the top 4 are EJ Tribal and Indigenous Peoples Policy. Next one is EPA's EJ Integration. Fourth one is Tribal EJ Integration, and then the next one is EJ Trainings.
That's fantastic. Great. I'm just going to look at the chat real quick. So it doesn't look like we have anything in the chat or the question and answer yet, though a lot of folks are interested in Cliff's question there, which we will hopefully be able to work on finding an answer for. Let me share with you, in case if you haven't gone to any of the lounges before, I'll share my PowerPoint one more time. And Morgan, was there anything further you wanted to share before we jump into how to get into the lounge?
No, just that meeting on a frequent basis sounds like a great idea, just given how much new information is coming in and how great of an interest it might be to share with folks as new information on these various EJ initiatives becomes available. So that sounds like a great idea.
Perfect. Let's see. Looks like I'm sharing my screen, but it doesn't want to move forward. Here we go. Okay, so navigating to the lounge, you can see over here in the red. So maybe if you go back to the lobby, you can find this left tab, and on it is lounge. You would click on it, and then as you click on the lounge, you get these other options that would pop up. Check out the environmental justice one. And as you're in environmental justice, join the live forum, and we can be able to have a stronger interaction together over there. It's tough because I can't ask if there are any questions about that, but that's how to be able to navigate over to the lounge. And Morgan, do you want to jump over there first? And then I will stick around just in case if there's some folks that are having, and if you're having some problem getting over to the lounge or don't quite know, if you can just post in the chat. I'll be here for just a little bit, and then I'll make sure to be able to see you over in the lounge so we can talk together.
Yeah, if you want to head over there too, I can sit here and you can go over there and start the discussion.
Perfect. Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to stop my share and run over to the lounge. Thank you so much, David.
Sure.